But in 1947, India boldly declared, "Enough is enough," and broke free from colonial chains. This confrontation, marked by intense artillery exchanges and close combat, saw Indian forces successfully repelling Chinese advances. In October 2024, on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia, the two leaders met for the first time in a formal bilateral meeting in 5 years. The implications of this alliance are profound. The United States risks becoming a sidekick in a multipolar drama. Today we are embarking on a wild ride through history. India and China, two ancient civilizations locked in a love-hate relationship that's been simmering for over 2000 years. Our journey begins with the bustling trade routes of the Silk Road.
Eurasia, the world's largest landmass. Some 10,000 kilometers from the Pacific to the Atlantic Oceans. A formidable distance even in today's world. And yet over that vast distance, human beings have pursued one of history's greatest enterprises, the Silk Road. A tremendously profitable trade route, and so much more.
Where ideas, goods and religions flowed freely between India and China. Indian Buddhist texts traveled to China, shaping its spiritual landscape and fueling an intellectual exchange that lasted centuries.
A Roman historian wrote that the Parthians dazzled the Romans with banners made of a beautiful fabric, silk.
Fast forward to the Tang dynasty rule in China during the 7th century. This was a golden age of trade and culture in China. During the same time, we meet monk Zhuangzang, a Chinese Buddhist scholar from the Tang dynasty. Determined to find authentic Buddhist scriptures, he embarked on an epic 17-year journey from China to India.
In the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West, Tang Sanzang was accompanied by his 3 magical disciples to go to India and fetch Buddhist scriptures.
Zhuangzang crossed the treacherous Taklamakan desert, navigated the icy heights of the Pamir Mountains, and braved the war-torn Central Asia of the time.
This story is actually based on the adventures of a real person named Xuanzang, who in the early 7th century went to India to seek guidance on the contradictions found in the Buddhist texts in China.
His quest led him to the great Buddhist centers of Nalanda and Vikramashila in India.
Nalanda is one of the greatest universities of the world. From 5th century onwards, having such a very big university where students had come from different parts of the world.
Where he studied under renowned scholars like Srila Bhadra and collected hundreds of Buddhist manuscripts.
Nalanda has very old Buddhist tradition.
It was a huge place. The range of the university is said to be 10 kilometers.
Upon returning to China, his translations of Buddhist texts not only reshaped East Asian Buddhism but also inspired the classic novel Journey to the West. If this isn't the ultimate long-haul flight with long layovers, I don't know what is. Meanwhile, Indian spices and silks dazzled Chinese markets, proving that cross-border networking was thriving long before emails and Zoom calls. Jump to the 20th century and the stage was set anew. Colonialism was the uninvited guest at every global gathering, with the British being busy absolutely ruling India. But in 1947, India boldly declared, "Enough is enough," and broke free from colonial chains. Recognizing the new kid on the block, China extended its hand, and by 1954, the two nations began their formal diplomatic dance. However, the drama escalated in 1959 when the Tibetan uprising erupted. In a moment that captured the world's attention, the Dalai Lama was given refuge in India, escaping from China when they forcefully annexed Tibet. This sent shockwaves through China and ignited a long-standing border feud with India over areas like Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh. China was pissed off.
Aksai Chin is a name that's been there only post-independence and probably from 1960s when China occupied that region. But if you look at it before that, the traditional name of this eastern Ladakh region is actually this Gostana.
And then bam! In 1962, in spite of the Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai call given by then Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, translating to Indians and Chinese are like brothers, the two sides clashed during the 1962 India-China war.
Mao Zedong commented, "Nehru wants to move forward, and we won't let him. Originally, we tried to guard against this, but now it seems we cannot prevent it." Various border conflicts between India and China flared up throughout the summer and autumn of 1962.
That claimed over 1,300 Indian lives and roughly 700 Chinese lives. A somber reminder that history often repeats itself with a heavy cost. The wounds of this conflict were far from healed when in 1967 a series of skirmishes took place at the Nathula Pass.
7 also laid down the template for India in terms of dealing with China.
This confrontation, marked by intense artillery exchanges and close combat, saw Indian forces successfully repelling Chinese advances. Though both sides suffered significant losses. But history had a way of repeating itself. Decades later, in June 2020, during the height of the corona pandemic, the Galwan Valley in Ladakh became the site of the deadliest clash between India and China in over 40 years.
Rare video of a border clash between Indian and Chinese troops has gone viral on social media.
What started as an intense standoff over border infrastructure spiraled into brutal hand-to-hand combat.
The video came to light after a clash occurred on December 9th in northeastern India's Arunachal Pradesh state near the border with Tibet.
With soldiers fighting in the freezing Himalayan terrain using rocks, clubs, and even their bare hands. The clash left 20 Indian soldiers dead and an unknown number of Chinese casualties, reigniting hostility and pushing both nations into prolonged military standoff.
In these clashes, but this video shows Chinese soldiers confronting Indian soldiers. Meanwhile, China also admitted for the first time that it lost its own soldiers.
Even as diplomats scrambled for de-escalation, the shadow of Galwan loomed large. A stark reminder that unresolved border issues often turn into battlefields. Then there was diplomatic standoff. Then there was diplomatic silence between the countries for 4 years. The countries barely saw eye to eye, even boycotting each other's goods. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. In a moment that felt straight out of a political thriller, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese Premier Xi Jinping came face to face after years of frosty relations.
A warm relationship with Russia and a cold shoulder to China.
The air was thick with unspoken tensions. Galwan was still a fresh wound. The echoes of clashing soldiers reverberating through the corridors of history. In October 2024, on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia, the two leaders met for the first time in a formal bilateral meeting in 5 years. The timing was no coincidence. Just 2 days prior, India and China struck a fragile agreement on a new patrolling arrangement along their volatile Himalayan border, a region where blood had been spilled not long ago. The world watched as the two men exchanged a symbolic handshake, their expressions carefully measured yet brimming with the weight of history.
चीन का प्रतिनिधिमंडल है वो भी, और ये देखिए चीन के राष्ट्रपति भारत के प्रधानमंत्री का अगवानी करते हुए उनसे हाथ मिलाते हुए.
Xi spoke of handling differences with wisdom, urging India and China to set an example of unity amongst developing nations. Modi, ever the statesman, reciprocated with a nod. Was this a mere pause in their storied rivalry, or the cautious first step towards something greater?
The two leaders also reviewed the state of bilateral relations from a strategic and long-term perspective.
The meeting carried a clear message. Even the fiercest adversaries can find common ground when the stakes are high enough. Today, India and China are forging a bond deeper than ever before. A partnership that feels almost destined, like that out of an epic buddy cop movie on a global scale.
Look at this report in the Indian media. It says Chinese officials are praising the chemistry between Modi and Xi.
With the global balance shifting rapidly, especially in the wake of Trump's tumultuous tariffs and the America First policy, India is not just testing the waters, it is diving headfirst into a dynamic alliance with China.
They say talks are underway to return ties to normal, basically to the pre-Galwan situation.
The signals are clear. They're ready to challenge old norms and rewrite the rules of global power.
And how will that be achieved? Through a series of steps, like restarting direct flights between China and India, easing visa curbs on Chinese citizens, lifting the ban on Chinese apps, allowing Chinese journalists to visit India, and expanding Indian movie releases in China. Apparently, Bollywood is quite big there.
The implications of this alliance are profound. Trump's constant threats of tariffs have already rattled the foundation of China's dominance in global manufacturing.
Here's the headline on Trump 2.0. He's stacking his cabinet with China hawks, top officials who've consistently taken a tough position on China, and Beijing is worried, obviously.
Meanwhile, India, with a trade deficit nearing nearly $100 billion, is emerging as a key player in the global south.
An aggressive Trump could box China in, especially on trade. So what is Xi Jinping doing? He is looking to solidify relations with other countries, including India.
As these two giants draw closer, they're setting the stage for a major realignment in the world stage. Back in the US, the consequences could be severe. The United States risks becoming a sidekick in a multipolar drama. A world where international decision making is a collective game. and the US finds itself scrambling for influence. This emerging bonhomie between India and China could result in the once mighty dollar losing its pull. Key forums that are cementing this new relationship include BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or the SCO, and the RICS group, Russia, India, China group, each fostering collaboration, cooperation, and challenging the old Western-led world order. So there you have it, a roller coaster journey from ancient eat, pray, love adventures to modern geopolitical chess games. Woven together through history, ambition, and a touch of drama, the relationship between India and China is a complex tapestry.
Now, some of these asks are reasonable, like visa curbs and flights, but restoring Chinese mobile apps will be a tough sell.
And as these two nations become closer than ever, the global order could be turned on its head. What do you think, friends? Could this epic alliance between India and China formally rewrite the rules of global power, or will old rivalries keep the drama alive?